Thanks for joining the Snapshot for today, March 9th. Can you believe how time is flying? On this day, March 9th, in 1522, Martin Luther began preaching a series of very important sermons. Let me give you the backstory. In 1521, Martin Luther was called before the Legislative Assembly that gathered in the town of Worms, W-O-R-M-S, in Germany. It looks in English like the diet of worms, an unusual nutritional plan. But at the diet of Worms, he met before the emperor and said, "Here I stand." It's very famous. His protector, Frederick the Elector was his name, was worried about Luther being killed. So he spirited him away to a remote castle called the Wartburg Castle. And there Luther wrote many important Reformation documents. While there, he learned during this 8-month period that he was ensconced in the Wartburg Castle that the people were going crazy in regard to the Reformation. Suddenly they weren't making the sign of the cross. One priest said, confession isn't necessary. Only the words of institution were used instead of the great thanksgiving, recalling all of God's saving acts. Suddenly, communion was permitted with both the bread and the wine, where formerly it was just the bread, which Luther liked. The mobs became entranced with the Reformation. The peasants revolted. You know the famous line, "The peasants are revolting," and Luther would have been one of those who said they certainly are revolting. Well, the mobs, the peasants, they disrupted traditional services of worship. They broke lamps, they broke statues. They were yelling during the service, hurling insults at the priests. And so Luther decided to secretly leave the Wartburg Castle and go back to Wittenberg, his central location for the Reformation. He did not like fanatical enthusiasm. He did not like license on the part of the mobs. So he preached a series of sermons which began on this day, March 9th in 1522. And these sermons were brief. He preached 8 of them day after day, and then went back to the Wartburg Castle for protection. They emphasized love and patience, charity, trust in God rather than in violence. And many think that these 8 sermons actually saved the Reformation from spinning out of control. Well, these sermons were called the Invocabit sermons, I-N-V-O-C-A-B-I-T or V-I-T. The name comes from the first Sunday in Lent, Invocabit Sunday. Back in the day, in fact, even when I was a young teenager, the Sundays were named after the Latin words of the introit, which was the beginning of the service after the confession of sins. The Gloria Patri, glory be to the Father and Son and the Holy Spirit, followed the introit. And these Sundays were named after the first Latin words of the introits. How far we've come. They were called like Reminiscere, Ocule, Judica Sunday, Palmarum Sunday for Passion Sunday. This Sunday would have been called Laetare Sunday, lift up your hearts, the 4th Sunday of Lent. There again, these words are all taken from the first Latin words of the introits. Well, public order was restored, and we can be grateful that Luther printed these sermons. Preached these sermons. And today we'll conclude with this hymn of Luther. Out of the depths I cry to thee, O Lord, my sins bewailing. Bow down thy gracious ear to me, make thou my prayer availing. Mark not my misdeeds in thy book, but on my sins in mercy look, or who can stand before thee? God bless you today.